Okay, we're gonna start.
Much better.
We do have a quorum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Conservation Commission meeting, March 23rd, 2200, present are
Collis Adams, Select Board Representative.
David Neiman.
Patty Gale, staff.
Jean Walker.
Andrew Chaplin.
Susan Tucker. Amy Paul.
Okay, first on the agenda is map 5, lot 97 and 98, and map 4, lot 88. A conditional use permit for a proposal to replace overhead electrical utility structures along the existing F-162 transmission line as part of an ongoing rebuild project. Some of the new replacement structures and site improvements will be located within the Wetland Surface Water Conservation District. A conditional use permit is required per section 13.3.7.1 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance to replace structures within the Wetland and Surface Water Conservation District. Public Service of New Hampshire bid Eversource Energy, easement owner and the easement area located off of Wallace Road, map 5, lot 97 and 98. Mountain Road, map 4, lot 88, zone residential and wet 1, and wetlands and surface water conservation district. We're also going to do the next one, which is map 5, lot 15-4 and 18A, and map 9, lot 11-1-OS. Conditional use permit for a proposal to replace overhead electric utility structures along the existing O-161 transmission line as part of an ongoing rebuild project. Some of the new replacement structures and site improvements will be located within the Wetland Surface Water Conservation District. A conditional use permit is required per section 13.3.7.1 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance to replace structures within the Wetland and Surface Water Conservation District. Public Service of New Hampshire, Eversource Energy, easement owner in the easement area located off of Elm Street, map 5, lot 15-4, Goffstown Back Road, map 5, lot 18A, and Hollyhock Lane, map 9, lot 11-1-OS zone, agricultural and wetlands and surface water conservation district. Do we have someone here to present? Would you just state your name for the record, please?
I'm Sarah Barnum. I'm with BSC Group. Representative from Eversource tonight would have been Ashley Ruprecht, but she's not feeling well, so it's just me.
I'm here too, sorry. I can come up, yeah. Hi, I'm Lydia, I'm with Eversource as well, with the project services group. I can come up if you want.
Come on up. I don't know that there'll be questions, but
Probably not, but just here just in case.
all right, good. All right, so let's start with F-162. The project will replace 4 structures in right-of-way, one of which is located within a wetland, and temporary wetland matting will be placed for some of the access as well as for the work pad around that structure. The wetland functions and values assessment that was done found that the wetland didn't have any particular exceptional values. You know, it's a wetland, it does have the values inherent to it, but there was nothing exceptional. And in that the wetland matting, the impact is a temporary impact that should have no lasting effect on that wetland. There's really not a whole lot more to say. If you guys have some questions, I'd love to answer them. But it's a very small project with a minimal temporary impact.
Do we
So
have
you
any?
haul in the swap mats, you lay them down, you do your work, you take them off, and this thing rebounds hopefully
Yep.
back to its near
Yep. Yep.
existing original
Yep.
conditions.
And we have done our natural heritage data check request. There are protected species in the area, no records actually within the footprint of the project, but Fish and Game has requested that we take some measures to make sure that there'll be no impacts, and we will have a qualified biologist on site when the wetland maps are placed to sweep the area, make sure that there's nothing present. They'll be qualified to handle the critters if necessary, to move them out of harm's way. They'll simply be moved, so that they're not in harm's way, not be taken anywhere or anything like that. So we've done that due diligence, and we just got this BMP not requests, but the BMPs that Fish and Game said were suitable, we just got those last week, and so we're going to submit for our SPN next week. And we'll have the SPN in hand before any construction begins. So.
Do we have any other, David?
When is the construction scheduled to begin?
This one is July through November.
Okay, so
So,
that should be well beyond any concerns for vernal
yeah,
activity
yeah,
in
and
small wetlands.
also, beyond the prime activity season for the listed creatures that are also likely to be there, so. Not to say they wouldn't, but it's,
Yeah.
less active season.
About as dry as it'll get.
Yep.
Do we have any other questions or concerns, or?
I got nothing.
No, I know, they were in last month too. We, thank you for coming in, and,
They gotta do the other
Yeah,
one.
you've
too.
got the,
yeah. Now you gotta do the second one
And then you gotta make a recommendation.
for both of them.
Yes.
Okay.
two birds with one stone.
We,
here, so. So
Let's
the-
make, okay, go ahead.
Shall I go ahead and present the second one?
We're just gonna make a recommendation to the planning board for you.
Okay.
Does somebody wanna make a recommendation that we pass it on? That's what we're asked, to make a recommendation to forward to the planning board.
On the first one. Can
On
we
the
do them
first one.
together,
First
or
one.
do we need to do them separately?
Why don't we do
I would
them
do them
just
separately.
separately? The first one,
I
First
so
one,
moved.
F-162.
yeah. Susan, make
Yes.
the motion to,
Make a motion to forward this with our approval, the F-162 line structure
To
Okay.
recommend.
placement.
Recommend
Yes,
to pass it.
Recommend.
okay. We have a second on that one?
I'll second that one.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Now we need a motion on the second one.
She's gotta present it.
Represent.
Oh, gotta vote on this, do we?
She just wants to get up.
Okay.
All right, so the second project is the 0161 line. This project is a little bit different in that all the pole replacements have already been constructed. And what they're doing now is replacing the shield wire. That's the wire that's runs above the circuits. It's to protect from lightning strike. But you can also put the shield wire up that's got optical, it's an optical wire, so it can be used for communications. And so they're replacing and putting that wire up. There'll be two small stub poles installed, but they're not anywhere near a wetland. To install the shield wire, once it's going to be installed by a helicopter, it'll be clipped in by helicopter, so there'll be no ground disturbance for that. However, once the wire's up, it has to be tensioned, and for that you need a pole pad and equipment to sit on the pole pad and pull everything. And that pole pad has to be in a certain location, and that location turns out to be within a
With
wetland.
wetland.
Yeah. So, again, wetland matting will be placed for the duration of that work. Similarly, we've submitted our data check to Fish and Game. We got that back last week. It's roughly the same suite of creatures, one more extra one here, but same idea though, although there's records for those animals in the vicinity, not within the footprint of the project. And again, the BMPs that we'll be implementing are sort of standard BMPs, and that will include having somebody on site when the mats are placed to make sure there's no animals there who might get squished. So,
Okay, any questions on this one?
Yeah, just one, it's very close to the Fish and Game land, or is it outside the boundaries of that?
can you speak to that, Lydia?
I would have to take a look at the mapping a little bit further.
Yeah, I know there's an easement right there somewhere, but I don't know where the boundaries
That
are.
that doesn't translate to any concerns for us.
Just out of
I wondered if
curiosity?
Yeah, I just wondered if the state also had to.
This axis is actually
look
Fish and
over
Game
it.
axis, so we're coming this way.
I I know that there's a note about it, and I wish I had written it down a little bit more. But to my understanding, I know EverSource's policy is like anything that's outside of our easement bounds is. Actually, I can tell you right now, we're in the process of getting a 10-year license agreement with the fishing game. So that's ongoing with the real estate group, and the conversation has been taking place just to make sure that we do have the rights to access through those gates. That's
yeah.
something that we have.
I was just curious.
Yeah, yep. Good question. It looks very close, and we're probably going to be using those gates through the fishing game property with their permission.
Any other questions or concerns for them?
See, pull pads, we learn something new every time. Pull pads.
Yeah, and if you look at the mapping, they're shaped a little different than the pads around the poles, so that way they can get the appropriate angle that they need to pull the wire,
Oh, sure.
tension the wire.
My initial concern was when I got this packet in the mail and it was so thick.
So thick?
It scared the daylights out of me until I opened it up and saw, oh, it's EverSource applications and they're so thorough in completing it.
It was thick, but it was
Now
all
not to be
theirs.
so scared.
Well, good.
I can finish my supper before you.
Yeah. Okay, we else, they want to make a motion on this one? To pass it on to the planning board? Whoever? Yes.
Go for it, Andy.
All right, I make a motion that we forward these recommendations to the planning board.
You have a second on that one?
I'll second that one.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Thank you on these.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think this was quicker than the last time you were in.
I know. Okay, next we have map 34, lot 37. Jeff and Sylvia Lewis, application owners are seeking a variance to build an addition to an existing home within the 50-foot buffer area of the Wetlands Surface Water Conservation District. The proposed addition will be located 32 feet from the abutting brook surface water, whereas 100 feet is required per section 13.3.3.5 and 13.3.3.5.2 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance. The property is located at 17 Pleasant Street, Zone Residential 1, and Wetland Surface Water Conservation District overlay. Do we have anyone here to?
Hello.
You're familiar with the process, right, when you go to present and everything? I think you've gone to ZBA before.
I have, but
Yeah,
it
so
was,
if you just
uh,
kind of.
You just-
13 years ago.
Yeah, I just want to
It's been a
state your
while.
name for the records, please.
My name is Jeff Lewis.
My name is Sylvia Lewis.
Okay. And
Evening.
do you have anything to present to us at this time, or just what we already?
Kind of what we presented. We know we're well within the buffer. We can't do anything about it. The house has been there since
So you-
1960. We just would like to add on,
And there's a brook right there,
Yeah,
correct?
it's the Whittle Brook.
Yeah, which runs down through town.
Yes.
Is it a garage you're building?
Nope, we're just adding on
Addition?
to, well, hopefully a living room. if we get approved.
Yeah, 12 feet by 28 feet, so
Yeah.
not a huge impact.
Is this any closer than than the other structure on?
Nope, it'll be just,
It's
I guess,
right-
parallel with it. It's not going any closer at all.
Okay, so I have one.
And is there currently anything there, like a patio or a deck or?
There is a deck 6 feet, so we're kind of only adding on another 6 feet. You can't see it with the picture, but we do have a porch that's 6 feet, so we're really only adding on another 6 feet to that.
So you're not adding the whole thing, because you're taking some of your patio also?
Yes, yep.
So when we look, may I, Chair? So when we look at this picture, this is the house,
Mm-hmm.
this is the garage?
Garage, yes.
Man.
Go ahead.
Well, the question we always ask, and so we'll ask you, is why does the addition have to go here as opposed to someplace else that might be farther away? Like, for instance, on the opposite side of the house, kind of in that corner.
In the corner where,
Yeah, the garage over here. Just on the other side of the house.
just the way the house is laid out, that's our kitchen and bathroom. It makes a lot more sense to do what we're doing because that's our very skinny living room right now, which we want to add on to. That's why we would like to go out that way.
So you're just expanding the existing living room?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no exit going out towards the back either, unless you go like through the garage and
We
around.
would have to move
Our whole kitchen that
and
was
everything.
just redone and the new bathroom that, so,
That would be a bummer.
yeah.
Yes.
So this doesn't bring it any closer to the brook, is that right? Am I seeing?
That's
No,
not
it
any
would just
closer
be-
than what they have right now. That's-
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I
Mhm.
thought when I saw this. It looks,
Well, I think because it's not going any closer to the
It's not
brook,
going any
that's
closer.
that's a significant mitigating factor. And the fact that there's already a deck there, so it's really only half of that footprint that's really being added.
I would like to add that you're consuming the deck that's already there, which is a hard surface, is it concrete or stone?
It's a wood
It's a
deck.
wooden deck.
Porch,
Okay.
I guess.
Support.
That's what we call it.
That if we do approve this, I would say that we would say there no further building within
right.
that footprint
Mhm.
at this point. If
Right.
we approve this, I wouldn't want to see another porch or deck or
Yeah, not
hard
to add-
surface being put into that space that's going to be closer to the brook. Because the setback, 50 feet, does serve a purpose. And we're going into that.
And we had
Usually
planned
it-
on, we planned on doing more with our porch, but then we're like, well, why don't we just enclose it? Because we barely sit out there at all anyways, so it would
So
be more
there wouldn't be a
useful
deck
for
on
us.
back here. This
No.
would end
It
right.
just makes more sense to have a bigger living space as opposed to having the deck.
And can I bring up, you don't want us to go any further, but we would kind of like to put the stairs off the front, just like a
So,
simple stairs
so
to walk
would
down.
the chairs go into the stairs go into the back?
No, it would just be stairs coming down from your front door.
Yes, from the
Yeah,
front.
and you have to
Nothing
have
else
that.
would go
just
any
like
farther
safety
than,
codes.
Then those
Right,
stairs.
Right, but
Through
that
the
could
four
be in
stairs.
the outer 50, not the inner 50, right?
this is the inner 50.
Pretty much all in the inner.
Oh, it's all, and I thought,
It's all
oh, I
in the
saw
inner
the-
50.
I saw the
Our
line,
lot
I
is
thought the
pretty
line
much in
was,
the-
No, they're in the inner
Designated.
50.
Well, most of it were,
so the whole thing's in the inner 50.
Yeah.
Half the house is in the inner 50.
Yes.
Majority of
Okay, I was thinking to say,
Predates the ordinance.
Yeah.
okay.
So are you gonna be excavating for a foundation? Poured
We have an
foundation?
overhang right now. I'm gonna be putting a frost wall in to take the load-bearing part
Yeah.
of that part of it, but that's it. It's gonna be a 2-foot by 28-foot frost wall. And then we're gonna put sonotubes in for the rest of the load-carrying part.
So where I'm going with this is my biggest concerns are erosion control, making sure we know that we limit where the construction equipment can go and cannot go, because a lot of times when they're building, excavating for foundations, you know, the excavator goes around back, and next thing you know, you're digging up just with the tracks, if nothing else. So erosion control measures are gonna be really important.
Yeah.
Just to
Because I
protect
think
the
that
brook.
brook has flooded before.
Yeah.
Yep. We lived there when we had the Mother's
Mother's
Day
Day
flood.
flood.
Oh.
And it went through
Came
town, that's
about-
the one that
it
went through
came about
town.
2 feet from the, coming over our driveway.
Right, that's, I think, why we're kind of concerned to make sure.
Oh, I just don't want silt going into the brook as
Right.
well.
Yes. So you would just want like some silt fence while we're excavating, is what you're saying? or-
Yeah,
Try not to go out there, right?
yeah. Yeah, you need some silt fence, and typically we like to see a silt fence, that's the erosion control, but then the orange construction fencing, So the guy who's operating the excavator doesn't accidentally back up and crunch over the silt fence, which takes out the erosion control, and when it's in close proximity to a brook like that, so. If you could do that, the contractor could do that, I mean, I'd be satisfied.
You're looking at the contractor, so. I can do that.
Boys with their toys, right?
Absolutely.
And these other two buildings of yours, the little ones, are those little buildings?
There's a shed
A shed?
and I
Well,
believe
there
the
was
pool.
one-
Oh, okay.
Isn't there one in the picture that's
It could be an older picture, yes, there were two sheds and we did get rid of
We
one
got rid
them.
of
That
one
was
of
The one
them.
that was closer
Okay.
to the
This here?
brook. Yes, that little one.
That's no longer there.
That one's gone?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one that was the closest to the brook?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes,
That's good.
that's no longer there.
I was wondering about that, okay. That's good. Because that kind of takes away some of what you're putting back in. Okay.
I think it's a reasonable request.
So, do you have any other questions for them?
Nope.
Concerns, or
I think they've heard our concern, water quality, erosion control.
just careful?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to pass on, this goes to ZBA, I
Yeah,
believe?
this goes to
Yeah.
ZBA.
And something we want to send on to ZBA?
I would move that we vote to recommend the application with the applicant taking into consideration our comments about, you know, proper erosion control to avoid any siltation or impact upon the Little Brook. I think that says it.
And, yeah, the construction, for sure. Okay. Anything else should be added to that? Pretty much.
Do you want to add your comment?
Right, I think we should.
No,
add
I know
that
what you.
no additional impacts within
No
that,
further encroachment.
right,
No, right,
within that 50 feet. That, you know.
because it is in the N50.
Right, because they sell the house and the next person's gonna come here and wanna do something else, so.
So no further encroachment?
Right.
No further encroachment.
Within the 50 feet.
Yeah, sell the house, somebody want to put a deck on the back of the addition.
Exactly.
Closer to the brook.
We've been there, we know how that works.
Should we clarify that it's not just the addition as shown, but also
The
staircase?
stairs, yeah,
Which is gonna be really trivial in the grand scheme of things,
proposed stairs.
just to make the wording more accurate.
Yeah.
But I think that's important because they might not do it, but somebody else might do it.
Okay.
Anything else? We all set with
We have a
that?
motion, we need a,
We need a motion for that.
They did, and then
we
we
have
need
a
a
motion,
second.
we need a second?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll second it.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, we'll go on to ZBA.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have map 18, lot 60-2 and 60-1. Subdivision site plan review and conditional use permit for proposal to take an existing two-unit land condominium form of ownership and add another land unit condominium by splitting lot 60-2 into two land units, creating new lot 60-3. This will create a three-unit land condominium form of ownership of the properties. Also being proposed is to build a 2,232 square foot retail restaurant with a drive-through on proposed newly created lot 60-3. A conditional use permit is required to allow for a restaurant with a drive-through service per section 3.11, table of principle E4. The property is owned by LED Development LLC, map 18, lot 60-2 in Franklin Savings Bank, map 18, lot 60-1, Locust off of Abington Way, 585 Mass Road Zone Commercial. We have someone here presenting.
Hi, how are you? I'm here on behalf of the applicant. My name is Jason Hill with TF Moran. Nice to meet with you all tonight. I don't know if you all have a copy of the color plan. It's
I don't have any color.
so I didn't bring handouts. I apologize. But I'm here. I'll just briefly present the plans, and then I'm just open for any questions or comments you all may have. Sorry about the copies. So hopefully you can work with this plan. Do you want me to push it up any closer to the board, or?
You can bring it forward a little if you want.
Alright. So, essentially, we're doing a site plan application.
Oh,
Not a good start.
Ah, well.
Thank you. You think I know how to use one of these, huh?
Looks like it's falling apart.
The leg, yeah. I should have just kept it where it lives. The legs always go on those. Thank you. I can hold up. So we're at Abingdon Square. This is the site that was originally it was approved for a auto zone, probably like around 2013. This is directly north of the Franklin Savings Bank and directly to the east of the Rite Aid. This site has been nuked essentially. It's a pad site that's been prepared for development. We're in the commercial district, and so we're proposing. We filed site plan application for a site plan for a Starbucks coffee drive-through restaurant, and it's approximately a 22 to 2,300 foot building. We have approximately 30 spaces, and then a drive-through lane, as you can see around the back. That would be a one-way out. 2 new curb cuts off of Abingdon Way. So here we have the parking field. Here's the restaurant, the drive-through and queuing around the west side. There's no wetlands or overlay districts that apply to this project. It's approximately 1 acre of site work, serviced by public water and sewer. And so in essence, that's the full scope of the project. There's a conditional use permit for the drive-through use. And essentially this will be subdivided into it's an existing condo, land condo, and we're proposing to divide the land condo to preserve the remainder. It's about 1.5 acres to the east. Other than that, we have just stormwater facilities and some landscaping facilities around the perimeter. There's a patio for outdoor seating along Abingdon, and we're also proposing to extend the sidewalk from the Rite Aid where it ends at the end of the parking lot. We're going to extend the sidewalk along our frontage. And so that's the overall big picture, and so I'm just here hopefully to answer questions or comments, or seeking support for the planning board site plan
Where's the
Uh-huh.
process.
proposal for the condos, the
Yeah, so the proposed lot line, it's only going to be a condo subject to the granting of the site plan.
so fairly close to the restaurant?
Yeah, so this is the proposed lot line here,
Yes,
and the existing property comes all the way out to here.
yeah.
And so we're going to be left with a larger land unit to the east. It's approximately, I think, 1.5 acres. And then just 1 acre pad site here would be the proposed remainder unit. So we'll end up with a 3-unit condo with Franklin Savings, lead development, and the proposed, it's Insight Development who we're working for, but I don't know who officially will end up being the third landowner. It'll be someone under the Starbucks group. And this parcel will then be sold, this land unit will be sold to that entity to form the third unit.
So the 3-unit condos on the other side of the Starbucks?
No.
This will form, so
Over there.
this will form
Okay.
a 3-unit condominium with the existing Franklin Savings Bank and the new Starbucks, and then this remainder parcel that'll be retained by Lead, and with access via Abingdon Way, which is a private road, and that'll be common, shared, shared right-of-way. And then NeighborWorks is a separate parcel to the north. It also shares access with this development, but that's not a part of the condo. That's a separate lot that was subdivided probably at least a decade ago. But there's no proposed connection to the, other than the Rite Aid sidewalk connection, there's no proposed connection to NeighborWorks directly. This is a steep slope, there's like an embankment here, and that sits down NeighborWorks probably about 10 to 15 feet below this site. So like the second story basically look of the NeighborWorks units looks over the top
Right.
of this crest, and we're gonna build or construct although it's not shown here on, we're amending the plan to provide a vinyl privacy fence for screening. And then we're also supplementing that with some, it looks like we have an arborvitae hedge there shown, which probably is redundant now because we have the fence, but we're screening that residential use, from.
So those are the condominiums that are out back.
You can
They're
see,
not
No, that would be
condos, they're-
Moose Club would be the condos, that's
Whatever-
further out.
Whatever they are.
yeah.
The
Just
residential,
affordable housing.
residential
They're
units.
already there.
Yes, yes, yeah.
They're
I think it's
condominiums
32
of 3
units.
lots. They're, it's,
Yeah, no, I get that,
yeah, they're
Yeah.
just 3 land condos.
They're already there, yeah.
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 They've
Trying
been
to
there a
differentiate
while.
between a land condominium setup and actual building condominiums.
Oh, sure, yeah, it's gonna be confusing, so this will be, land condos versus building condos that have shared parking, like a lot of plazas and developments that we do. I do shopping centers, they have shared parking, and then the unit itself is the condominium. That is not the case here.
What does that mean, on a land condo?
It means
Do
that
the businesses own the land, or they're on
Correct.
a long-term lease?
No, they'd own the land and they have they pay for
Okay.
common plowing of like the roads and things of that nature, plowing. Primarily in this case, it'll be plowing, because those are shared amenities between the units. So they will
Gotcha.
own outright in fee simple the property.
Oh, that's what I learned tonight.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
And it's a private road, so like
Right.
with the land condo, like the Franklin Savings Bank is really the one who has the frontage on Mass Road. But with this being a land condo,
For land condos, okay.
yeah, it makes it conform.
Yeah, it's more flexible because when you have a condominium, you don't have setbacks for buildings, like you have fire code and stuff, but you don't have, you don't essentially have side yards and setbacks, so you can do more, it's a more flexible, way to lay out buildings and driveways, because you have less kind of restraint on, those hard ordinance, constraints. But at the end of the day, from a zoning perspective, we're not seeking any relief from this, from a zoning perspective. Coverage we're under, and there was a variance that was approved a few years ago just because this is a private road. To allow to build on the private road, we had to go to the zoning board to get that squared away, and that's obviously been done. So, yeah.
Okay, Collis.
Can you talk a little bit about the stormwater management scheme, how the runoff's gonna be conveyed, collected, treated, discharged?
Yes, yeah, so this site is, the soils are good on this property. They're excessively drained, we've test pitted it, and so there's really no runoff from today or historically when the church owned this. It was a field and it's a soil, no runoff. So therefore, we're basically infiltrating, we're filtering and then infiltrating the runoff from this whole site, such that essentially we're producing no runoff. Everything that's falling on the ground from this site gets infiltrated into the ground. There's a proposed system between the Rite Aid and us, and that's going to be a surface pond, shallow. And that'll be, so because it's excessive rapid infiltration of the native soil, to provide adequate treatment, we have to filter it with like a AOT style, alteration of trend style mixed soil, so it gets a mix of compost, sand, like loam, and it's specified on the plan, the mix. And we have to, during the design, the construction process, I have to approve it before they put it in. And so essentially that actually slows the soil down, the water down, because if you were just infiltrate into the ground as it is, it's so rapid you technically wouldn't get the amount of contact time for the absorption of some of the, so we're filtering it and then we're infiltrating it, and we have test pitted to ensure that we have adequate separation to the seasonal high water table. And this is basically a zero runoff site for 100 years. It's been designed to infiltrate a 100-year event.
So it's an engineered system,
Yes.
constructed system, but it's not big enough for AOT, but it's gonna be designed to the AOT standards?
Yes. Yeah, I did they have a worksheet you're probably familiar with, for design purposes, the AOT EMP worksheets, and that's what I used to ensure that, the water quality volume, we're effectively 5 water quality volumes are being infiltrated versus the state would require 75%. But it's just similar to the Rite Aid. They have like a shallow rain garden in the front of the Rite Aid that they did. This is going to be similar to that. You can see we proposed some plantings there. It's probably a little bit deeper, but it's only essentially going to be, say, 4 feet deep, so to speak. But that's the primary detention and treatment system for the site at all. It's collected via catch basin. There's a few catch basins that gets piped to that system. Pre-treatment, it's deep sump catch basins. Deep sump catch basin with a sediment forebay for pre-treatment. So there's pre-treatment and then primary treatment. And the treatment train is deep sump catch basins, followed by sediment forebay, followed by filtration, and then infiltrated. That's what we're proposing.
I see here you have, then there's an outlet structure too, so it looks like
Yes.
there's a 5-foot elevation. It'll be like 5 feet deep and running the length of the whole lot.
Yes.
And you've got the outlet structure's a beehive frame, and then it
Yes.
says there's an existing earthen berm, natural spillway, so is it designed that would then run out the back to,
No, that's, I'm gonna remove that call out, it's misleading. So the design is that if it was to, in an exceedance of a 100-year event, or if this was not maintained, the design is that this beehive frame, that outlet structure, the water will then flow through into the catch basin that exits the site. And that call out for the spillway, that's basically just the natural low point, whereas if it was to even build up higher, let's say in a 300-year storm, the water would at that point go that direction. But the basis of our design is that the emergency overflow for the pond is the frame of this catch basin or the outlet structure. So that's set below the top of the berm of the pond and above the 100-year event, so that it would collect that water.
Okay. Is this, who will be responsible for maintaining, I guess, that bioretention area?
That would be the responsibility of the condo unit owner, which at this point is the applicant, Insight Development Services LLC, until that's transferred, until that's transferred and purchase and sales occurs.
Okay.
But it won't be the responsibility, the way the condo's set up is that it won't be the responsibility of the condo, that each of these condo units has basically effectively its own drainage system inside of it. Franklin Savings Bank has its own drainage system we designed, and so they'll be responsible for their own maintenance.
So you're gonna put together an O&M plan for this that's gonna be inspected and what's gonna happen when
Yeah, it'll
you
be,
reach certain performance standards and cleaning out and whatever? I mean,
yeah, the route, there's a checklist that specifies, you know, the frequency of inspections.
Yeah.
It's different for different BMPs. And I put that they have to retain it for the town's record if necessary, but if the town DPW asks or someone for access to it, we would provide it to the town so they can basically police that they're maintaining it. So they can certify that it's actually being maintained in accordance with the O&M plan.
Where will the snow storage go?
Yeah, so it's really designed such that there's an area primarily in this corner that we're showing that they can plow it up here, and then primarily they're gonna have to move the rest of the storage. This is a flat area, basically between the pond and the road, because there's some utility. It just turns out that there's a flat spot transition, so they would have to plow or move the snow into that flat strip adjacent to the drive-through. There's really no other area. There's a thin strip along the property line that they can plow the snow, but they're probably not gonna plow it this way. They're gonna plow it back to here and back to here so that the snow is gonna be stored in the back corner, which we've got like roughly 8 parking spaces worth of storage, and then if they overflow the snow and that's occupied, they're gonna have to, well, they're gonna plow they'll have to use some of this open space or move the snow off site if one of those two options.
This is just gonna be a drive-through, no?
I'm sorry, no, I mentioned it has seating. There's indoor seating and there's a patio. I believe there's 30 indoor seats. Okay, so we have I believe 35 indoor seats and
Seating for 35?
yes. And then a patio with, we haven't laid out the tables yet, but the patio will be a small number, probably 3 tables of 4 or smaller. So roughly 10 patio seats.
Okay.
And then we have some bike racks as well. Adjacent to the patio, there's some bike racks proposed.
Okay. And then parking is right there.
Yeah, the parking is here, handicap parking here. The front door, the main entrance is at the midpoint. And then the drive-through is here.
Anybody else have a question?
And I heard you mention the word town, and just want to be clear that the town is not going to assume any responsibility for anything on this property. As far as drainage, maintaining stuff, I mean, we use the word town as a select board rep. That perks my ears up because, you know,
No
we're not gonna-
salting to the road.
we're not going to assume any responsibility for anything on the property.
It's a private road.
Right.
Yeah, they understand that. But I understand
That's-
the clarification that you're making.
That'll come through the planning board.
Yeah.
I did look at your landscaping, and that's an area of town that really doesn't have many large trees, and I think in your landscaping you had 4 maples, which
Yeah.
will be eventually large trees, which I think is really good. But
Thank you.
usually we end up with just little city trees.
Yeah, the red maple,
Would they're 50
Here,
feet,
here,
they're
here.
50 to 60 feet tall eventually, red maples? Okay.
do they get that big, do they? Yeah, so we have 4 of those and then
It-
we're alternating
I
that
think that
with
would be,
honey locust.
that would be, as many of those as you could put in would be good.
Okay, I'll take that recommendation.
Because they don't have many large trees in the Penadville area.
Yeah, I'm trying to
They
grow
need some
some.
shade. They need some shade.
And
I'm trying to grow some. I'm trying to grow some.
It just seems like it would be
No, I
good
just
to
haven't
start
nobody.
some down there.
Year by year.
Yes,
Okay,
we'll take that recommendation.
That's so sad.
Collis, I thought euonymus was invasive and on the invasive list, but they have 14 of them down. Am I wrong on that?
which ones?
Euonymus?
The euonymus.
They have euonymus.
Burning bush?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think-
Oh, absolutely.
That's
They're invasive,
absolutely
aren't they?
It's on
It's
the
invasive,
landscape
it's not
list.
That should be banned statewide.
It is.
The
Yeah.
euonymus, the
There's-
Manhattan euonymus, okay.
Yeah,
There's
that's
14 of
nasty.
them on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see
No
that.
burning bushes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the burning bush?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we have that
An
removed?
ongoing battle to clear that out.
Yes, if that's an invasive, we should have to specify it. So I'll talk to the landscape architects, and
Replace them with a big tree.
if that is in fact invasive, we'll
Oh, it
revise
definitely
that.
is.
Oh, it is
It's-
for
It's
sure.
on the state list, it's
Yeah.
on.
Okay, I believe you, I'm not a landscape, expert.
So they should put native, they should do native plants.
That's what,
We should really push for a more native.
What page was that with the species?
C9.
What else is up?
C9?
C9, I mean, under the landscape notes, they
Yes.
say all invasive plant species from the New Hampshire prohibitive list shall be removed. But that's, I guess, if something's existing at the property.
Right.
Replace it with another.
Crabgrass.
Grab it.
I don't know what's growing over there.
That was a good catch.
It's kind of my thing.
Do you know if any of those are native plants, the rest of them?
The bunny fufu is, yeah.
C9,
Red not.
C9s.
any other suggestions or comments?
You, it all depends if this stuff survives. more than
Right.
anything, you know.
That was sandy soil.
They saw
I think it
a
is
lot.
an area that there should be landscaping, because it's pretty built up in that section, which was once going to be a park, so, would be nice.
I thought so. I
It was a
thought that area
it was
was
a
where it was
forest.
gonna
Before they
be.
cleared it, was a forest.
I know.
It was all big trees.
Yeah, it was, so that's why I'm saying, if they can put back some big trees, it would be nice to have some down there,
With all that asphalt, some shade would be
so.
nice.
Anybody else have any comments at this time? We have to make a motion to pass
I
upon.
think we covered all of our
Some
conservation
recommendations.
issues.
Yeah, recommended,
Snow and landscape.
Lighting is all.
we're looking for a recommendation to the
Everything
planning
else is
board.
fine.
Dark sky ordinance, lighting, yeah, it's all,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all planning.
No, it's a different species.
You on planning tomorrow?
Yeah.
yes.
What was the name of the bush? I'm calling it burning bush.
Yeah.
Euonymus.
Euonymus.
Anonymous.
EUONYMUS.
And burning bushes are
Although
like,
it's all
That's
that.
good.
Maybe it's also invasive.
Yes, we're going to
Yeah,
planning
but
tomorrow.
Make sure they have
a lot
big
of things
trees,
are like,
not little city trees,
We're probably likely
But
gonna
do
be
you wanna make a
continued.
motion to recommend stuff?
like
Forget that.
maples or oaks or
Trees
something that's
recommended.
native to this,
Okay,
here,
Native.
get something. I know they won't be huge right now, but eventually. I know, that was all forest at one
emphasis
time.
on large growing, large crowned deciduous.
it's possible.
Any other suggestions? We're looking at
Well, I
native
was gonna
plants, I
say
think.
the honey locusts will actually get quite large too. They get huge if they're allowed
Which-
to. Honey locusts.
Honey locust,
And
yeah.
they grow fast.
They have honey locust listed here
Yeah.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
there's
that's a
3 of
choice
those
as
maybe,
well.
I don't know.
Yes, 3.
I did go through that list. I didn't catch
Euonymus.
I was looking for big trees. Okay, are we all set? Yeah.
So just recommending they remove that and anything else?
Well, I'll make a motion that we're satisfied with the plans for drainage and snow removal, and mostly satisfied with the plan for landscaping. However, we request that all the burning bush, all the euonymus be removed, not be planted, since it's an invasive species. And we recommend an emphasis on as many large trees as possible to help keep the area cool and shaded. Anything else?
Native plants, if they're gonna do any short growing, there could be native plants.
Yeah, and the O&M plan for the stormwater management system,
OMM plan,
operation and maintenance plan.
Yeah.
Provide an operation and maintenance plan.
okay.
Okay. Okay, we have that, we have a second on that?
I second it.
Amy, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining?
Thanks for the input.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. And we will be sending this on to planning
Okay, great.
with those comments for big trees.
He's also presenting for the next one.
Oh, he's on for the next, oh, okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, map 5, lot 49, site plan review for a proposal to build a 4,800 square foot building for automotive trailer dealer business to be located at Mass Road. Property owner is Hawks Motorsport LLC, zone commercial industrial flex zone. Looking for recommendations to be passed on to the planning board.
Okay, so, Jason Hill from TF Moran here on behalf of Hawk Trailers of New Hampshire, who's the applicant. And this is a parcel at 186 Mass Road, which is really adjacent to, we came through with a plan for a car wash a few years ago, which is under construction now.
Yep.
And this property is directly to the west, to the village side. It's basically right before the power lines come across Mass Road, where you have the outcrop with all the boulders, and so in the Glen Lake area. So this property is a 26-acre piece. It goes back, large property, undeveloped, except there used to be a farmhouse on the property. This is in the portion we're developing is within the commercial industrial flex district, but I believe there's the back of the property is agricultural. So this is an overall site context map that shows the site, Bass Road here, and then this is the overall property going back. The power lines cross through the middle, and we're developing the front 3 acres plus or minus. And this is a 2-phase project where we're looking to first establish, so the goal is, my client has an existing trailer dealership called Hawks Trailers of New Hampshire in Goffstown. They're leasing from an existing dealership some space, and he plans on, the first phase would be to store excess trailers, surplus trailers, not open for retail, but just overflow inventory that he has. And then ultimately, in the near term still, ultimately, so that's short term, we'll say next year, and then within a few years thereafter, build the dealership on that lot, construct a new building of approximately 4,800 square feet, which would consist of the dealership facility, the offices, and then some garage space for just maintenance. These trailers are like combination of like flatbed trailers, snowmobile trailers, just like if you've been up to Tilton, there's like the trailer outlet, and then in Route 106 in Loudon you have like the trailer depot. So that's the general nature of the business. There's retail sales of trailers.
Right now, they're down by the Wallace Road roundabout. You've seen them
Is
on
it
the right.
Goffstown Ford, is it?
Accelerated auto.
Accelerated auto. There's
They're all
all
there.
those trailers in there.
No, he's out. He needs
Snowmobile
more
trailers, flatbed trailers, cargo trailers.
new and used, yep.
Right.
And so that's the purpose of this project. And he owns the property, it was purchased, and the intent would be to then move that business here. So, like I said, it's 2 phases. The first phase, as I've described, so the overall project, the property itself has, here's the site layout plan. There's a forested wetland running north-south, and that's associated with I believe it's an intermittent brook, maybe perennial. I don't believe it shows up on the GIS map. So there's an intermittent brook, collects runoff from a large wooded area, and flows into a culvert under the rail trail and Mass Road. Now the rail trail is running along our frontage, so we have the site, the rail trail, and then the property itself. We're not proposing any impacts to the wetlands from this project. We've pulled the set to just resetting things. The site itself, I mentioned it's a forested wetland on the west side. It goes basically running up to the power lines. And then the site itself is pretty much mostly meadow now, cleared in the front. And there's some woodlands when you get to the base of where the hill starts itself, because it climbs the site. There's a forested area, a small forested area. And we're working in that front area in front of the power lines only. We're not proposing to work in the power lines or beyond the power lines. The front area between the site and not even to the power lines, but basically on the level, lower plane, we're proposing to develop this dealership, which is just going to be a small parking area for customers. He doesn't get a lot of customers at one. And then a gravel display and just circulation and display area around the perimeter that's delineated on the plan where I have the trailer storage, and the flow, the circulation around the shop, the maintenance shops in the back. That's all going to be gravel. The display will be a display line in the front of the site itself for trailers as well. So the perimeter of the site's going to be just trailer display. We have, I didn't identify the minimum distance from the actual edge of the nearest, the proposed gravel perimeter drive comes to the wetlands is approximately less than 50-foot setback. So it's approximately in the range of 40 feet at the closest point that this driveway will be to the wetlands. There are no buffers, although we're providing a buffer to the wetland under the proposed condition. The commercial projects and industrial projects there are no setbacks from wetlands in the CIFZ district. However, we are preserving and proposing like a strip of landscaping that'll separate the site from that forested edge of the wetland, which is also a ways from the brook. You know, the brook is here, so it ranges from where we're at the culvert. It's right, the edge of the brook is right at the edge of the wet, but it widens as you kind of flow to the north. So proposing improvements to the approximate minimum dimension of 40 feet for the driveway from the edge of the wetlands that we've delineated. We're proposing a stormwater pond adjacent to the rail trail, because that's the low point in the site where the soils also are very rapid, so it's going to be a similar type detention system that I've already described for this project, and that'll be in the front, basically behind the rail trail. We will be clearing the existing woods, which is just scrubby, needs to be cleaned up. Planting this pond, constructing this pond, and then we're going to provide some nice shrubbery to make a nice visual. I didn't submit the landscape plan because it wasn't prepared yet when I filed the plans with you. So I have the plan with me now to show. This is on the planning board agenda for, we haven't submitted yet formally, so this is gonna be an April meeting. So here we have some proposed, this is the wetland edge, there's some slope work that we're doing, and we're proposing this whole area along the west side of the site to be New England conservation wildlife mix for ground cover, which is a wetland type plant vegetation, as well as supplementing with wetland shrub species, shrubbery, along to basically restore any of the woodland that we would have removed for the slope work. We're going to replant that with basically to reestablish the buffer that was occupied by the loam and seed, the fill that we're putting in. Secondly, and this isn't related to wetlands, but I'd like to, we're doing a robust effort to provide a dense shrubbery, a dense row of shrubbery along the rail trail that'll, I think, spruce up the appearance of the rail trail. I think they're gonna construct it next year, this portion. So we've met with Dave Pierce and just Dave to kind of review what would be good design and implementation. So we're gonna be sprucing up the frontage of the rail trail with both street trees along Mass Road between the existing road and the trail where there's currently nothing, it's just dirt. And then on the back of the rail trail, having a continuous row of shrubbery there. So that'll make that, I think, a lot nicer curb appeal. Otherwise, this project does not have any state permitting other than for a driveway permit from DOT. And we have site plan approval from the town we're seeking, but there's no wetland impacts or wetland buffer impacts. We have designed the site to minimize the encroachment on the wetland by different factors, such as the grading and the implementation of this restoration area, which is a large area. I think
On the map the plan I have, it says outdoor display area, and that
Yes.
looks like that's in the 50-foot setback?
They don't have a setback.
Is that for the
No.
actual, are you talking about for the road itself?
No,
Or
from
for
the wetlands out?
So we show a setback because the surveyors had to identify that on the base plan because they don't know what the use of the property is. And if you're a residential use,
Okay.
you're subject to it. So they have to show the 50-foot setback. It's, in the ordinance, it's clear that these sites, like I did for Green Thumb, it has the same situation, same zoning district. We had wetlands, direct impacts there, so we needed permits, but that had the same condition, whereas it was exempt from the buffering due to the proposed use of the property.
I need a little clarification if I could, please. I'm looking at sheet 2 of 2 on the existing conditions plan, and this gets to the whole wetland surface water stuff. So if you look at that, and if you're looking along the easterly side, there are wetland flags there to delineate the wetland up that easterly side. Yet on the westerly side, it says edge of water. And I
Yes.
don't know what does that mean?
So, because we're not developing this section of the property, we located the closest edge of wet to our site to ensure that we have the correct resources identified. So this is, the edge of water is the intermittent brook, the mountain brook. And then the edge of wetlands are the forested wetlands that are the actual true DES jurisdiction. So the edge of the water is the east edge of the intermittent channel.
Okay, that ought to be clarified on the
Okay,
plan, so
yes.
we clear what's going on.
Certainly, I agree.
So what, did I hear you say we're not showing it because it's not gonna be developed?
Yes, we didn't go in, yes, that's correct, yes.
So what's gonna happen over there?
It's just gonna, this is an existing forested piece, it's just a corner of the site. It's proposed to just remain unaltered.
Okay, still part of the property, the overall
Correct.
property.
Yes,
It's just not being proposed for development.
yes, sir, and, yep, that's correct. It would be cost prohibitive at this point to try to get the bridge over that wet. So at this point, and the amount of earthwork that we'd have to do, and just out of respect to the clearing of the buffer zone, we'd have more.
So where I'm going with this, I'm a little concerned when we start piecemealing development of property.
Yeah.
You know, we developed this one, well,
Then the next one comes
what's
up.
going on the other half, and could we have done something different to have avoided or minimized or done something different?
So there's no plans for the other half?
For this portion,
Yeah,
no, there's no plans for that. There's no, it's got a lot of issues. You can see there's a brook on the abutting property.
Right.
So you're only left with like a small triangle. The grades actually start to steepen in there. And so it's and there's this, which is in this area here. So it's just cost prohibitive at this point. And so I don't want to close the door for the future, because maybe he does want to eventually in 10, 20 years come over here with necessary permitting, but
Yeah.
at this point, there's no.
well, that's my point exactly.
Anticipated.
Usually we like to see an overall scheme of development so that we aren't surprised 5 or 10 years down the road where they come back and say, well, you know what, we're gonna plop something here. And we said, well, if we'd have known that back in 2022, we might have had different comments,
Right.
different concerns to bring forward.
I mean, he could potentially subdivide this in the future if
Yeah,
it meets
he could.
and therefore, like, I think that would be problematic in that aspect, because that's precluding any future, and I don't know if there's any intent to subdivide, but it is a large piece, likely having enough frontage. Getting access, I don't know, I haven't looked at that, but, you know, I think that we would probably not want to give up rights in the future at this point, but I'm here to hear your concerns and listen too, so, and convey them to my client.
I have one question, to the east at Showa Corridor, it says former location of Bazell Road. That's not a class 6.
No,
Is that completely abandoned?
Yeah, it was discontinued, I don't have the date of the discontinuance, but that's a road from like the 1800s.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of it before, so.
Yeah, our surveyor determined that it's been discontinued, it's no longer has any, there's no rights of the public or the town
Okay.
To that road as it currently exists. As well as the rail trail is subject to an easement rights. It's not, actually, it's shown as, actually easement rights and not as owner rights, which is something that that's not a conservation thing, but the GIS map shows that as like a separate right-of-way almost. It's always been confusing as to this rail trail, because it runs parallel with Mass Road and it cuts these parcels and, you know, cuts their access off, but we've determined that the actual rail trail is subject to easement benefits on this parcel, and that the town does not actually own that strip. It's actually an easement benefit in terms of just ownership. We're still obviously working with the folks of the rail trail to make sure we're coordinated with their design and you know, working as a good neighbor and stewards to them.
And the effort to provide at least some buffer to the wetlands, even where it's not required, is noticed and appreciated.
Thank you. We didn't want to, as a developer, we don't want to clear cut everything to a single line, you know, and just, it's not responsible to do that, you know, unless there's some type of unique situation and such that we wanted to, anything we needed to use for temporary grading purposes, we wanted to restore, you know, but I think aesthetically it's nicer than, it'll look much better and he'll have a much better site for his clients to have that type of natural perspective.
Yes.
Do you have any other comments, questions? pretty heavy wetlands, so we gotta make sure that's protected.
We'll need double erosion controls. This is subject to a CGP and EPA permit. When you're within 50 feet of a wetland, to comply with the requirements, you have to provide secondary containment. So we'll have, as part of the, and this is a also larger project that's gonna be subject to monitoring. So along the edge of the wet, on the perimeter of our site, we'll have 2 rows of either a row of silt fence and silt sock, or a mulch erosion control mixed berm and a silt sock, but double perimeter controls.
Would that be appropriate to have that marked as the wetland signage?
Well, the wets are flagged
But
in the field.
permit signs,
No, because they're not governed to,
they're not going to
they're
that kind
Well,
of,
commercial, industrial flex zone, and
It-
commercial is exempt.
It's flagged, and it's showing the numbers of each flag on the lot already, so.
okay.
Yeah, it may not require buffers, but the wetland resource is still important.
Right.
It doesn't
You can't
get
be
out
driving
more.
in it.
Yeah. That's-
In Mass, they actually make you,
Is that flag?
they actually check in the field before construction. The Conservation Commission walks the property to make sure that all the flag, everything is actually laid out. And they actually lay it out with the GPS.
We've done that many
pretty
times.
hardcore. Yeah. I mean, it's good for,
But as you know, probably know, Conservation Commissions in Massachusetts have some statutory authority, they do not
Yeah.
here.
Oh, here they are. The flag, how long were they
Hmm?
there?
Hmm.
During
What's the
construction.
height of the building? I didn't see
I
that
don't
anywhere.
know that. It's gonna be
Just curious.
like one of those prefab, like, Morton buildings, structural, like that's aluminum. So, there was I don't know that answer. It's gonna be under 30 feet tall. It's gonna be a high bay, just open bay warehouse, a typical Morton style. I didn't bring the architecturals, I apologize. I'm trying to think of a building in the neighborhood. There's nothing really around here that I can refer to.
Okay, so, we put a motion together on this.
Well, my major concern is still we don't have an overall scheme of development for the property, so we don't know what's coming down the road. And that's not unusual for us. We do that with residential subdivisions, when they're only proposing to carve out 2 or 3 lots and then have a whole bunch of land left over, as I'm sure you're all familiar with. We say, well, wait a minute.
Like a master plan.
Right,
policy.
right, exactly. Yeah, no overall scheme of development.
And we
You
don't know.
Sometimes in subdivisions, we'll put a restriction on saying no further subdivision of land, for example.
So is there a way we can find out what possibly what the whole plan is?
Well, that'll be a planning board issue. I think we'll send our comment on to the
Planning
planning board.
board.
At least that's my major concern is,
Okay.
we ought to see an overall scheme of development for the whole property.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna ask the planning board to consider the question.
Okay. That would be our comment. It's not really a motion, it's comment, right?
Well, I'm passing,
Hmm?
yeah, I'm gonna pass on
Pass it on as a comment?
as a comment, but
Well, so, I mean, we've asked a number of questions which have all been answered, so among the committee, are there any issues of environmental concern to mention? That would be also included in the comment. Does anybody have? I think everything we've asked has been addressed, so.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and then there's a water course that comes down through there, and you said you weren't sure if it was intermittent or perennial?
Yes.
I'd like to get confirmation.
It actually shows up, I'm looking at it now, Carlos.
Yeah,
This is the Goffstown GIS.
yeah.
This is it, and it's showing, that indicates, in my experience, that that's a perennial stream.
Yeah. Yeah, but you've got a wetland scientist, right? They can make that determination, because
Yeah,
I'd like to
Chris
know
Danforth.
for sure if it's intermittent or perennial, because it's a big difference.
Yeah, I can ask Chris, he'll
Yeah.
clarify.
Okay.
Chris Danforth is our wetland scientist on this
Is that a
project.
comment you want to go? They're submitting on, technically on Friday.
Yeah.
We were just trying to get them in here before you submit.
Yeah, I can clarify that,
Yeah.
Patty, on the
So
plan.
intermittent.
Okay, so
I
they
mean,
haven't,
our stream resources are important, and we need to know whether it's intermittent or perennial.
they haven't submitted yet, but are we not formulating a comment to go to planning so that they don't have to come back?
That, yeah.
Because I know we're a lot of fun to hang out with, but you may not want to come back.
So you want to send those comments, or do you want to send them on as a vote?
Well, we vote on the comment, then
Yeah.
what's the difference?
So he's submitting to get on the 14th, and when I knew they were submitting, I asked him to try and get
Right,
a
which
plan
is
in
good.
for you to review.
So we want to send those on as comments? Or vote on them?
Well, fold them into our,
Vote on them.
what, our overall, other side of the table want to do it?
All those in favor
All
of
right,
sending
well-
these on as comments to the board?
I move that the plan addresses, environmental concerns that we asked about. But we would ask that the stream is, it's determined whether the stream is perennial or not. And we would like the planning board to consider the question of the overall plan for all the property beyond just this initial stage. And as we're just asking them to consider it, that's not a big ask.
And I think we ought to reserve the right to provide additional comment in the future if the plan does change as it goes through the planning board process.
Yes. What he said.
Yes.
Since there could be there could be changes pretty early in the process.
Okay. Anything else to be added to that? Yes, okay, do you want to put a second on that?
Yeah, I'll put a second motion on that.
Okay, everyone in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
All right, thanks everyone for your
Thank you.
time.
Thanks for coming in.
Good presentation.
Yeah.
Have a
Yeah,
lot
on
of
both of them.
questions.
I'm going to skip down to the, people must be waiting for the last one.
No, I think they're here.
Are you waiting for the Yeah. Okay, I'm going to,
The last one?
the last one, I think.
Oh, the plan review for the
Yeah.
lot line adjustment, I didn't have them come in for that.
Right. I'm going to skip down to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, map 6, lot 46, and map 5, lot 38-3, proposed lot line adjustment between the two lots. No new lot will be created. The owners are June Goss Living Trust, Nicholas Bosho, lot 6, lot 46, and Robert and Lori Deloitte, lot 5, lot 38.3, located 61 Center Street and 18 Juniper Drive, zone residential 1 and agricultural. Do you want to come up to the chairs? And just state your name. I know they've been sitting there all this time.
Yeah, I was just gonna explain it to you.
Sorry to make you wait. Luck of the
That's all right.
draw, luck of the draw you get put on the end.
That's okay.
I'm Robert Dalton, this is Nick Rosso.
Yep, I'm Nick Rosso. I'm in charge of the June Goss Living Trust.
Okay. I know where this property is, and it doesn't look like there's any new lot being formed?
No, so what we're proposing is that we just move the existing lot line, and cut the June Goss property, or the June Goss Trust property, into, you know, 2/3 would be going to Bob, and 1/3 would be staying with the house. Something along those lines.
More or less to give you a backyard?
Well, I've lived there since 1995, and I've been great friends with June Goss and Bill Goss before he died. And they've always told us to use the land, and we go out there and walk around, and you know, it's just peace of mind for me that when the house sells, that I'll still be able to continue to do what I've done for 26 years. So, no plans of development, no plans of anything outside of just being able to walk out across my back wall and know that nobody's going to kick me out.
Smart move.
Yeah.
I kind of assumed that when I read through this, because it doesn't look like you're gonna have any frontage from this,
No,
or
no,
it's gonna be a
it's
backyard.
attached to my lot, yeah.
Anybody have any?
It sounds like something that we have
It's-
no issue with, but I'm sorry, I'm looking at the plan and I'm not quite sure where the lot line is being adjusted.
It's in the back.
June's house is the house right next to the Grassmere store.
Lot line to be removed.
That's
It
going,
used
so
to be a
this is
chicken
going
farm.
to this
Oh,
one.
this entire amount?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and her property went up and back.
Yep.
It went from like where the Grassmere store is, her house is right there, and it went up and back, sort of.
No access.
Goes up to the power lines, comes
Yeah.
across, and then there's a narrow old wood road type thing that goes up to a field.
And they were over on Juniper, which is, goes up by where Rand says, yeah.
It abuts Daniel's land on one side, it abuts, I'm not sure what the guy's name is that does the maple syrup on Terrell Hill, and then it abuts Janigan's land on top. Janigan's land is in trust as well.
So this is on tomorrow night, so I had it on here for you guys to
No, that-
review if you have any comments.
Does anybody have any comments that they wanna, then wanna make a motion, to pass this on with,
No issues of concern?
make a motion for approval?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we pass this on to the, who's this going to?
Planning board.
Planning board with no issues of concern.
Second.
Sorry to make you wait all that time for that.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't
One
have time for
sentence.
that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So you guys can't
I
approve this
know.
tonight?
You sat there an hour and a half.
We always save the best for last.
I know.
Thank you,
Yeah.
we appreciate it.
This one's perfect for you guys, it saves everything. Bob doesn't wanna do anything with it, he just wants to keep it the way it is, so.
The way it is.
Thanks for
Exactly.
coming in.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, now
Thank
you
you very
know
much.
the whole process, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for coming in.
Thank
No
you.
problem, thank you for listening to us.
Good.
Okay, let's go back to the correction and acceptance of our minutes from January 26, 2022.
No, I remember reading them when they were emailed, so I don't think I had any comments.
Ready to make a
I
motion?
wasn't here.
Somebody want to make a motion to,
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we
Accept.
accept the minutes
the second?
from January 26th.
Second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
I
Susan's
was not
abstaining.
here.
Susan wasn't here. Okay, David and I have to be recommended
For the selectmen.
to the selectmen to, our time is up.
I make a motion to recommend David Neiman and Jean Walker
Be reappointed by the select board.
to be reappointed by the select board. And you to stay as president?
All those in favor?
Wait, do we have to second that?
She seconded.
I'll
and
second it, yeah.
I guess,
See how quick I can talk sometimes?
Really quick.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We can't abstain because it won't be enough.
Kind of strange if you voted against
So
your
we
own
are
appointment.
going to be going into,
Before we do, Gene, can I just ask one
Sure.
question? Item number 3, it's a copy of an NHDS letter to the Department of Safety regarding approval for erosion sediment control plan over Gorham Pond Brook. Do you have that letter?
It's in the correspondence. It's the state's doing work, I think it's the bridge. area.
Was that the one we talked about
That's right on top.
previously? Or no?
Yeah, it's,
Well, this is for,
Erosion and sediment control for work along New Hampshire 114.
it's the right of way area, if you wanna look at it. So,
I just don't remember anything about it.
I think it's the 114, the bridge area, and because it's, the brook runs under.
Quite a while ago, right?
Yeah, it was in like a while ago.
One like got a grant for the milfoil.
So then how do we stand overall on that?
Still good.
How much is it?
They're applying, they haven't, it hasn't been awarded, but they are applying.
Okay, they're applying, they didn't
That's
say
the
that.
amount they need to get. And then it generally is they pay 40, we pay a certain percentage.
Anything else now before? Okay, we're gonna go into non-public, and when we come out, we will not be on the air. We need to have a
You'll be
close.
adjourning.
We need a motion.
yeah, make a motion, oh, I can't.
David's got it written.
Well, I'm looking to see, okay, I make a motion that we enter into non-public session per RSA 91-A:3, 2, parenthesis D, for the discussion of real estate matters. And after we come out of non-public session, then we'll just simply vote to seal the minutes and then adjourn the meeting. So this will be the end of the televised segment.
You need to do it by roll call.
Roll,
Yeah.
You, David,
Aye. David Neiman, aye.
Jean Walker, aye.
Andrew Chaplin, aye.
Susan Tucker, aye.
Amy Pollock, aye.
We will now go into non-public session.
They're still recording.